Hi, I'm Abhay and welcome to Prop News Times Weekly Roundup. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
A recently released survey states that 80% Indians now prioritize home ownership over renting. The strongest purchase sentiments were observed in Chennai, Mumbai, and Ahmedabad. So, do you think builders should consider notional demand seriously?
Definitely, because technically, if you see, it'll become a sort of a seller's market if the buying sentiment is very high. But you have to see where people are coming from. In a developing country, and especially in a country like India, where family values, traditions are very important, home ownership then has a very high priority in the list of investments or purchases person makes. So what was earlier, you would see people nearing retirement buying homes. Today, you'll see people in their early 30s wanting to figure out whether they can buy a home. With the help of a
Correct.
loan, the lending industry has also become pretty active. So there is a growing sentiment I believe, where people would like to have a sort of a roof over their head that they call their own, do it up the way they want it, and this is actually adding to that positive impact the industry is having, the tailwinds it is today enjoying. Having said that, there have also been instances when it has been felt that the new generations, what we call XYZ, they are more keen to rent out accommodation than
Correct.
buy accommodation. Even so, even if Gen Z says, I want to rent, but somebody has to own it to rent it. So, overall, if you look at whether you're owning a house or you're going to buy a house just for renting it out, either way, the sentiment becomes positive for the industry. So,
Correct.
notional or otherwise, the sentiment itself is going to be a big sort of a booster.
The Rising Northeast Investors Summit 2025 was held earlier this week on 23rd 24th May at New Delhi. At the summit, they secured investment proposals worth 4.3 lakh crores, making it a record deal in interest in the region's development. So, do you foresee the Northeast finally getting its due and being able to become the kind of tourist attraction that so many people think it can be?
Uh, Absolutely, because for a long time, I think it has been an ignored region of this country. But now, suddenly, we find that it is becoming an integral part of India, with both with connectivity becoming better. And as it becomes an integral part of India, people would want to set up industries, both manufacturing as well as service industries coming up.
Right.
So it is an extremely positive sign that people do want to invest in the Northeast, because
Correct.
it has been forgotten for a long time.
Exactly.
And I think the change has come about because of the amount of investment that's first going into the infrastructure, the connectivity. I think a few weeks back we discussed that hotels are putting up. A lot
Correct.
of hotels are coming up in the Northeast. You know, all this is going to be a boost not just to tourism, but to actual industry, both manufacturing and service. So the good thing is coming into the folds of India,
Correct.
modern India.
Correct. That's what it feels like.
It feels like that, and I think it's very, very good and positive if you think about it.
The state authorities in Maharashtra have submitted a proposal for a comprehensive parking policy. One of the suggestions is that vehicle buyers must now show proof of available parking before registration. So, what do you think a city like Bombay can actually do to help with its parking situation?
The vehicular density in major metropolitan cities, and especially in a place like Bombay, is extremely high, one of the highest in the world,
Correct.
given the length of roads we have. So if the state government or local authorities come up with a plan that you should be having parking place, because when you park on the roads or you're parking, you're buying cars more than necessary, you're actually adding to the traffic woes of that city.
Exactly.
Correct? And given the amount of investment we have put in into the metros, roads, connectivity, I don't think all people have to resort to having private car ownership to travel and commute. Correct? So
Correct.
I have a feeling we need to have a very comprehensive plan to address these issues. Our roads need to be widened, pedestrian plazas should be created, one-way streets should be there. There was a plan earlier which was very successful in creating public parking places where builders were given additional FSI. It was a good
Correct.
idea.
Yes.
But the problem is the implementation. Nobody wants to go there. It's not well maintained. And the easier way is to always park on the roads and get away with it. So I personally feel the first step not only is to ensure that you can't buy a car if you don't have a parking place.
Correct.
I hope they ensure that it also applies to autos and cabs. Because if you see all the roads, they're lined with autos in the suburbs or cabs. Why? Why should they be on the road? Buses.
True.
Do you
Buses still have a
understand?
bus depot and stuff,
Correct.
but
You should have that. That's
yes.
one. That's one. Two, you should be having taxes. If I am parking my car on the road, I should be willing to pay a parking charge to the municipal corporation.
Correct.
You understand? So, along with congestion tax, parking charges on public roads, ensuring that you have a place to park before you buy a car, I think this will go a long way and it will become absolutely obligatory for us to adopt these measures. Otherwise, we are going to have a huge traffic chaos.
ASK Property Fund has announced the first close of its newly launched AIF ASK Curated Luxury Assets Fund 1, which is focused on investing in luxury residential projects across India. The fund secured 500 crores in the last 3 months from UHNIs and family offices. So, do you think with wealth management and international auction houses getting into the fray of luxury residential market, the market is going to see a completely different landscape and change in the way it raises and deploys its capital over the next decade?
I think the transformation is already taking place. What is happening, what this indicates is a trend where players are coming together to form a platform, what we call. So here you have a ASK fund who are reputed fund managers who have deployed capital in the past in residential projects. They coming in with Sotheby's. Now,
Right.
the great thing about Sotheby's is an international auction house which actually deals a lot in luxury residential real estate also. So, together, what they're trying to say is we can use each other complementary strengths to invest in luxury projects. Okay.
Okay.
Now, I think there was a great opportunity there which they are tapping into, because when you start a luxury project, your sales can be slow actually. Though we always tout luxury sales and it's given a lot of publicity, the velocity of a luxury project is never the same that of an affordable housing project, correct?
Correct.
So if the sales are low, that means the financing somebody has to be doing it so that the developer can reach the finish line. He has financial closure.
Correct.
So if these people can do that function
So this
where they
will
hold the inventory and then slowly it gets liquidated.
so this will allow them to, instead of trying to liquidate in 30 months, be able to wait for 50 months
Correct.
if
But
needed.
it'll also mean that you will be able to hold on to those premium pricing. Because whenever you have created too much luxury housing, otherwise you will have to be a little bit soft on prices to push it.
Right.
But if you have funds like this holding it for you, then the funds will naturally be able to push that price a little bit higher.
Correct.
So it's good, I think, overall, because it's another source of funding. and it helps the markets overall.
KKR is set to allocate a substantial portion of its recently raised USD 6.4 billion Asia Pacific Infrastructure Fund in India. So, do you think FDI growth like this is going to be what fuels our infrastructure growth over the next decade? And will it
Absolutely.
attract a lot more investors?
Absolutely. It shows that India is on the map. It is on the radar for large funds, infrastructure or otherwise, because they know that if we are going to be one of the largest economies in the world, and there's
Yeah,
so much scope for investment as well as making money,
correct.
they're viable projects, then naturally they all want a slice of the pie. So this is a vindication of the status we have as one of the hottest investment destinations,
Even for infrastructure
even
right
for
now.
infrastructure.
Amitabh Bachchan recently purchased a 25,000 square foot land parcel in Ayodhya for nearly 40 crores. The deal was reportedly facilitated by the house of Abhinandan Lodha. So, do you think such celebrity purchases can impact the sales of a project and are a necessary endorsement needed to generate a buzz, especially in these new projects that are coming out in tier 2, tier 3, and tourist and religious destinations?
Definitely. See, because they are such towering personalities with a huge following, people do want to know what they are doing. And if he believes that a superstar like Mr. Bachchan can actually endorse or go and buy a property in a particular project, he feels it's a good buy. So why shouldn't he also follow suit? So it's a big, big endorsement in a way, uh, and it's a big giving a sort of a thumbs up to the others to say, look, I believe in the project. So I do tend to think that if everybody comes in, they would also gain. It's not explicit, but it is very much implicit in the whole thing. Okay. So,
Correct.
but the underlying thing which one should be noting in such things is when celebrities endorse or when celebrities buy into properties, they should know that they are actually influencing directly or indirectly other buyers to come in. So there's a
Exactly.
sense of responsibility they should feel because they are not maybe directly telling people to buy, it's his own decision. But you should feel a sense of responsibility. So I only hope that when they do such decisions, they do it with careful due diligence.
Correct. They make sure everything is as
Because
per
in the
all.
wake of his purchasing, I'm sure quite a few other
Others
people
might
will
be
also buy.
interested, right? According to recent reports, property purchases by NRIs have climbed significantly over the last decade, roughly from 10% in 2018 to 20% in 2025. So, what do you think has been attracting more NRI investments over these last 7 years? Do you think it's sentiment alone, or do they actually see potential growth here as an investment opportunity?
I think it's a combination of two. Because one, as India comes onto the world map, it's not a joke to be the fourth largest economy, the
Correct.
fastest growing economy. Purchasing power parity, we might be number three already. So when you have such numbers coming out, you know this is a country to reckon with. So suddenly the country of their past is becoming the country of the future for them. So
Right.
if that is so, then naturally I want to be in the country of the future. So there will be reverse migration. And investment is a precursor to that. I start buying property, then I start visiting the country, and finally, I will maybe come back into the country. So that's one. Two, when you talk about sentiment, everywhere there's a lot of nationalism rising,
Right.
correct?
Right.
People are wanting their own countries to become great. Nothing wrong with it. Similarly, when you have a rise of nationalism, people think back about the home country, isn't it? So I personally feel both the rise of nationalism, the far right and everything, conservatives who are coming up, and people want to claim their country back for their own denizens. Then the non-residents, expats, foreigners will naturally want to go back to their own home country also, or at least
Correct.
have a foot there. So the whole thing is driving the investment scenario. And
So
I think this is a good positive sign for the industry and for the country.
correct. So the more unsteady the global markets are getting and geopolitical situation is getting, the better it seems to be getting for Indian investments.
Always, because see, the more volatile any economic situation is, the more real estate would be construed as one of the best investment destination, because real estate is less volatile. It's
Right.
property. It's touch and feel game. So whenever I am threatened by volatility or uncertainty or any sort of a complexity, ambiguity, as we all call it, then immediately I will resort to real assets, physical assets, real estate, gold, cash, whatever it is. That gives you safety.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of the weekly news roundup. And do leave your thoughts and comments down below. And subscribe, like, and follow for more such updates. Thank you.